Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the world's most exciting classroom. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. This is our 41st episode of the world's most exciting classroom. By the time the Oosterschelde and the DARWIN200 team make it back to the UK in July 2025, we'll have well over 100 of these live world's most exciting classroom events. And every week it just seems to get more exciting as we explore more places on our incredible planet. If you tuned in last week, you knew that we have arrived in Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, as some of you may know it as. And we were able to go live with some of the moai statues. So we had Stuart McPherson, expedition leader, and we had Grant hanging out with us, one of our researchers on board the Oosterschelde. And we got to see the statues, learn a little bit about them, their cultural significance, their history, and our curiosity of the week was how did they end up in those positions? These 9-10 meter statues, some of them weighing upwards of 80 tons. How are they moved from the quarries across the island to the positions where they are now? And we'll learn the answer to that in a little bit as our live event progresses. I'm going to share my screen really quickly here. I want to just update you with the map where we are right now. Here we go. This should come up on your screen. So you can see, if I back out a little bit, you can see where we have covered and you can see where we are right now. We only have a few days left on Rapa Nui. And then by the end of the week, we will have set sail towards Mangareva. There will be potentially a pit stop on the way at Pitcairn, which is an incredibly remote, rarely visited island. It is 50-50 whether we're going to be able to stop because there really isn't a sheltered harbor. If the sea conditions are bad, there is no way to land on the island, and we'll have to continue and make our way to Mangareva, which is our next, for sure, destination. We'll be spending a nice bit of time there with some new Darwin leaders and some new projects. So I'll back things up here. I want to share a quick little drone video with you, and then we're going to go live with our main event for today. So as you know, the ship has arrived. And our amazing photographers, our camera guys are out in the field and they are grabbing some footage. So here's a quick little drone video just to give you a little view of where the ship is anchored right now. So this should come up on your screen. I'll make it nice and full screen for you so we can catch this view. So there we go. Nothing but ocean in behind the Oosterschelde. And then as the drone backs up a little bit, this will give you a little idea of where the ship is right now and what they're seeing. So there's some of those moai. And you can see there's no pier for us to pull up to. We're just anchored. So the water's beautiful there. So going back and forth between ship to shore is pretty easy. But I'm sure there's been some times where it's been a little bit rougher and it just wasn't possible to get back and forth quite so easily. So there's a little view of where the Oosterschelde is right now, right next to some of those moai. That's really, really cool. And thank you to the camera team for getting us some of this footage. A little later, I've got some other footage of some of the moai around the island, and we'll play some of that footage. But as you know, we have 2 Starlink units on board the ship, and one of them is a maritime unit, so that allows us to broadcast from the ocean pretty much anywhere in the world as we're sailing. But we also have our land unit. And when we visit places, we try to get it out into these remote spots and connect live from the field. A couple of weeks ago, we met Jut Wynne. Jut is an amazing biologist. He's a scientist. He is, well, I've probably been hosting him for probably getting close to 10 years now and sharing in some of his adventures as he explores around the world. And he's super interested in biodiversity, in particular of cave invertebrates and other species found within. And so he has been running all around Rapa Nui with his team, and they are getting into those caves. They're getting onto the sides of cliffs, and they are collecting some specimens. They are making tons of notes, tons of observations, filming, getting great photos, which are being updated on my WhatsApp every single day. And they have one of our satellite units right now. They're in a cave on Rapa Nui, one of the most remote places on the planet. Let's get Jut in here right now. Hey, Jut, how are you?
Excellent, Joe. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. It is so cool that we can do this, Jut. You are in a cave in one of the most remote islands on the planet, and you may as well just be in my living room. It's that clear right now.
Hey, and I was thinking about this too while you were introducing me. I wonder if this is the first time that a Starlink has been used in a cave.
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
Because that's where we are. We are in a cave right now. And here I can even show you. It gets darker in that direction.
Yeah.
And then we go over here. And it gets darker in this direction. And you see these walls here. These walls were actually built by the ancient Rapa Nui. So we are not only in a site that contains biodiversity. This is one of the most important caves on the island, but we are also in a cave that is rich with cultural and archaeological history of the Rapa Nui people.
Awesome. Well, Jut, why don't you take over for a little bit? Introduce us to some of your team. Let us know what you've been up to. Show us the surroundings. We are pretty excited.
Okay, so first and foremost, the most important team member that we need to introduce right now, Te Pahu. He is our mascot. For whatever reason, he has glommed onto us, and whenever we're in the caves, he follows us, and he's great company. Very photogenic, as you can see here. Well, yeah, he's incredibly photogenic when he sleeps. And let's see, we'll go to Pancho. See if we can get Pancho. Where are you, buddy? Pancho is the man with the plan. He is running the show here. This is my good friend. He and I have known each other. We worked together first in 2016, and we got the band back together. So Pancho's here. Pancho works for the indigenous community here that manages the national park. Pancho, do you want to tell them anything about what the work that you do and why it's important?
This study is good for the island, for the environment, for the children. Make science in the middle of the ocean, in the neighborhood of the world.
Yes, sir. Excellent. And Pancho just touched upon something that's very interesting that we learned while doing this work. Is there are Rapa Nui names for crickets. There are Rapa Nui names for the isopods, the terrestrial isopods. Some of us will know them as roly-polies. Excuse me. But we do not have names for the springtails or the book lice, which are also known formerly as Socopteran. So what we're going to do here is, working with the local community, we're going to reach out to schools, and we're going to have the Rapa Nui kids come up with Rapa Nui names for those animals. And these will be general names. For example, the roly-poly here is known as Ahu Ahu. No, ¿cómo se dice? Not Ahu Ahu. The roly-poly. Hahu Hahu. Hahu Hahu is the roly-poly. And what is the cricket?
Peretei.
Perateki.
Peretei.
Peratei. So we have those two names, but we don't have a general name for those other two animals, the Kalimbala and the Socopteran. So let's just kind of jump right in here in terms of what we're going to do. And if y'all give me a second, I'm going to switch the direction of the camera so I can see what I'm doing while I am. Oh, that's not good. Let's see what happens here when we do this. No. Okay. Well, that's we don't want that. Oh, here we go. That works. Let me go ahead and close this. And I think this is working now. Yeah. Okay, great. So here we go. This is how we set everything up. What we are doing here, in addition to looking for endemic insects, and the reason why we're looking for them, we know that they're here. We described them about 10 years ago. We have 8 formally described endemic insects that are known to caves and other remote parts of the island. This is one of the most important caves for conservation and protection, because this houses 6 of those endemic insects. And what an endemic animal is, or plant is it's an animal or plant that occurs in one location and no place else in the entire world. So they're very important for conservation. So what I'm showing you all here, these are ferns. These are endemic ferns, and they occur quite frequently in cave entrances. You can see here the extent of them. There's some that have died off. We believe that this is because it is winter here, and so when the rains come and when there's more moisture, that we will have more in this area. And so what we're doing here is we're doing two things. First, we're monitoring somewhat in that we're coming in here and we're looking for these insects again. So we're going in here and we're collecting, and I will demonstrate that here shortly. But what we do is we look very closely, and here's a roly-poly, a hahu. Don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah. But we're going through here and we're looking for the endemic insects. We're collecting them. And when we put them in these vials, very complex process here. You use a watercolor paintbrush and a vial, and you collect them, you put them in the vial, and then you label the vial, and then you move forward. Another thing that we're doing in addition to this is because we want to be able to evaluate the habitat to make a determination whether or not these animals should be listed as threatened, endangered, or not threatened at all. The way that we do that is we have to collect additional information. And what that additional information entails is, for insects, it's very difficult to determine how many individuals of a given species exist. It's very difficult, as you would expect. How would we count all of them here? It's not like counting elephants, which is quite easy by comparison. So what we do is we have to do something we call it by proxy. So we use another metric to figure out how to evaluate the extent to which these animals could occur in the wild. So what we're doing is you see this pull tape here. We take this pull tape and we are using a laser distance finder. This is the highest tech piece of equipment that I have on this trip. And we measure. And we go along this line and we map what we see here. We map this clump. We map this clump of ferns. We map this. We map this here. Then we map all of this here. And what you have, once that's done, is you have a map that looks like, let me make sure I got the orientation correct, like this. And this is our map. I just put the finishing touches on this morning. Here's another example. And what we have is in addition to having the map itself, we want the raw numbers, right? Because we want the data. This is the raw numbers. So we take this, and you can see that I am not a very good artist, but I am very good with Adobe Illustrator. So what I lack in drawing in the field, I can make up for it when I use a computer, and I will make these maps here look very pretty once I have the opportunity to bring them into another platform, into a computer platform. Let me go ahead and introduce Sebastian Baccarati. He is from Rapa Nui. He is also a very talented artist. And what he is doing here is he is drawing one of our endemic insects. So what we've been talking about is the importance of art in connecting people to the environment. And I will hand it over to Sebastian so he can explain what he is doing and why it's important and what the future holds for promoting the importance of these insects.
I'm doing a drawing of our insects, our endemic insect. This is one. We have photo of this. This is the photo. You can see it's not clear, the photo. So I had to imagine sometimes the form of the insect. I use this is for the form, but I had to use this. This is the insect. And I had to use this, and I had to mix for the drawing. It's very important for us, the drawing and the detail, because the detail you can imagine how is the insect. This insect is very small, very small. It's very difficult to our eyes to look this insect. I live here and never saw this insect before, just now, so just for the study. So now it's very important for us, for Rapa Nui people, to know how is the insect, how is our animal, endemic animal.
And so just to further explain what we have here, these are called Columbella,
Yeah, alumni.
also known as a springtail. And what you can see here, this is its springtail. And as Sebastian has indicated, they are about this big. They're about 1 to 2 millimeters in size. They are incredibly small animals. And they're very important. I'm going to spin the camera around here. They are very important for a number of reasons. And in particular, they are important for, here we go, back in the game with it facing towards me. Okay, cool. They're very important for agriculture, for example. They can use them as a indicator species to evaluate the health of agricultural fields. Now, I've questioned whether or not the Columbella here on Rapa Nui could be used as a measure of ecological health. They are they're very small animals, but if there is contaminants in the soil or there are other environmental issues associated with the soil or the environment, those numbers can fluctuate due to the severity of those impacts. And let's see, we don't have anything else to show you all in terms of the collection process. Maybe we can, if Joe would like, I can demonstrate here in a little bit. But the springtails are very important. Oh, one other thing I'd like to share with you all. Seba, would you hold on to this? Oh, yeah, I'll show you that in just a second. So with the Columbella, they have what is called a furcula. And it is that springtail that you saw, that long character that extended from the butt of the animal, from the tail end of the animal. And when it's alive, it's folded up against its body like this, and it's ready to jump. And unlike a flea, it doesn't have legs that can spring it into the air. It has this springtail, and it has these two characters at the tail end that helps it determine what direction it wants to jump in. But when it's disturbed, when scientists are trying to collect it, or when another animal is trying to eat it, it will spring open, and when it hits the ground, it will launch the animal out of harm's way. So very neat animals. Joe, back to you.
All right, Jut. So you've been out for almost a week now. How many sites have you visited?
Let's see. How many sites we have visited? We went to one cave. We sampled one cave, and we visited six caves so far. We visited one cliff and 6 caves. And the plan is today we're going to wrap up one last cave. And then, we're going to wrap up one cave that we've been working on for the past 2 days. And then we're going to shift to another cave. And depending on our progress associated with the end of the day, we are going to try to visit 2 more caves.
All right. And then if you had to guess, how many specimens do you think you've collected so far?
Nearly 200.
Wow. And are those only endemics, or I know there's invasive species as well? Do you collect those, or you're just looking for the endemics?
Well, the what's at issue when you're dealing with very small animals, you have to be thorough. I can look at some of these isopods and think that, oh, I know that's exactly what species that is, and sometimes I'm right. But sometimes it's a little more tricky. So to err on the side of caution, we collect everything. But we are focusing on the Columbella and the 2 endemic isopods. That is our goal. And then there's also another Socopteran that we're looking for too. I will need to go through the specimens more closely, but thus far I do not think we've collected that one yet.
All right. I'm going to put my camera back on here, Jut, because I think we should do some questions. So we've got lots of classrooms tuning in via YouTube. Don't be shy and send us in some questions. And then we have a couple camera classrooms hanging out with us. So I want to check in with some of those camera classrooms while we wait for some YouTube questions and see if they have some questions for you out in the field, Jut. So let's go to Alberta first. Mr. Bedard's hanging out with us. He has a virtual crew with him today. How you doing, Mr. Bedard? How's your crew?
I'm awesome. We're awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks. Great to see you, Jut. This is incredible, the technology. We're in Calgary, Alberta, and you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So we have a question about how long do you stay in the caves and what risks are there in the work you do? If you could summarize, I'm sure there are many, but top
obviously,
3.
In terms of how long we stay in the caves, in these caves, typically a couple, 3 hours at a time.
Okay.
As you can see here, these caves are, because they're lava tube caves, they have multiple skylights. These are basically, this is so when a lava tube forms, when there's molten lava, much like water, travels down the path of least resistance, typically within a drainage. And what will happen as the lava on the roof will cool first. And so forming the roof, and the lava will continue to flow and drain out. And what we have here, because we're in lava tube caves on Rapa Nui, there are multiple places where the ceiling collapses. We call it a skylight. And this is the rock that fell from that part of the lava tube. Over there, you might be able to see the light in the distance there. That's another entrance. So with these caves, these are quite open. So even though we are underground, we have access very quickly to the surface. More so from the perspective of, if you need to use the bathroom. When you are working in a cave, in other caves that I've worked in, we have to haul everything out. And that means whenever we have to go to the bathroom, we have to put it in containers, and then we have to haul all that waste out of the cave. These very easy by comparison. In terms of the hazards, there are collapses. There are rocks that can break loose. I was doing something very benign yesterday. I was laying along a rock slope like this here, and I was collecting in the ferns. Well, the rocks underneath my feet gave way. And how many feet did I roll? Probably 10.
Yeah.
10, 15 feet. I tumbled down the hill. And here we go.
Sorry that happened. Jeepers.
Yeah. No, it's part of it's just the way it works. I've when I was working in a cave in northern Arizona, I was walking along the edge of a 40-foot drop, and the same thing happened. The rock slid underneath my feet, and I almost fell off a 40-foot cliff. Probably would not be here today. Yeah, it's just part of the job.
Thank you. Honor speaking to you. Thank you for your research.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Great questions from our Calgary crew. We're going to go away from Calgary down to California. Miss Barha's crew is hanging out with us today. How are we doing today, boys and girls? All right. Does anybody have any questions for Jut? Come on up nice and close so we can hear you.
Did the insects you showed, do they live in water?
They do not.
All right.
But there is one that can do very well in the water. Actually, the water surface for an periods of time.
Sorry, Jut, you broke up just a little bit. Can you repeat that for us?
Oh, Joe, you can't hear me?
It's not too bad. We lost a little bit of it. If you just want to repeat that answer for us.
Okay, I'll just hold the camera. So what I was saying is that for these particular insects, no, they do not occur in the water, but there are species of Columbella springtails that are able to exist on the water surface. They don't live there full time, but they can spend a fair amount of time on the water surface.
All right. So Mr. Deneen's class is joining us. I believe they're in Virginia. and they would have two questions. When you
Hey, Joe, I lost audio.
Oh, okay. Nothing? Let me see if I can get Jut a message, see if we can get his audio back. Let me check my audio too. Make sure it's still turned on. Yeah. Mr. Bedard, just give me a quick wave. You can still hear me okay? You can still hear me? Okay.
But
Yeah.
his
Okay.
mic was working.
Okay. Let me see if I can get...
Okay, I heard whoever is speaking now.
How about now, Jut? Can you hear me?
But I cannot hear Joe.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Bedard, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
That's so weird.
Okay, I can hear you, but I cannot hear Joe.
That's so
Joe,
weird. Mr. Bedard, can you tell him to exit and come back in? We'll see if it clears up whatever issue he has.
All right, Jut, Joe's asking you to please re-log in. Just leave and come back with your connection.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Bedard. Okay, let's see if that's a new one. Usually, if you lose sound, you lose everybody. I don't know why he just lost me, but we'll see if Jut logs back in. We'll do a couple more questions with him. I think he was going to show us how he collects a specimen, and then we'll let Jut go because we still have to do our experiment, our curiosity. I've got some more videos to play, but I see Jut already, so let's see. Jut, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, that's weird. That was selective that it was just me. But I'm glad you can hear me now, so that's good. Okay, two questions from Virginia, Jut. Do you ever release specimens after observing them? And what would you say is your job title?
In terms of releasing specimens after we observe them, when we work with bats, obviously, let me get a better, try to get out of some of that sun there. When we work with bats, obviously we release them once we have examined them. We also, when we're dealing with larger bodied invertebrates, sometimes we are able to identify them in hand. And if that is the case, then in some cases we will release them after we examine them. For example, when I was working here the other day, I identified a few spider species, which I was able to identify 2 species. And in which case we did not need to collect them. I could just simply document that we had them. So I would just notate that species was present at this site. In terms of my job title, I would say that I am a conservation ecologist. That is my primary gig, and that is to collect data and information to help preserve what is left on our planet.
All right. Perfect. Jut, what do you think about, you said you might be able to show us how you collect a specimen. Can we take a look at that before we sign off for today?
Sure. Hold on. Let me switch the camera around here once more.
Sure.
Seba, ¿es posible que para ti usar mi teléfono? Okay. All right, so in terms of how we do this, this is a map of our cave, and this is the cave that we're in now. This is exactly where we are precisely at this moment. Oh, let's go, if we can go this way with it, please. And this is where we are right now. And I'll just show you the information that we collect as well. This is our invertebrate sampling form. This is our general ecology form. So we have to be very organized in the field. If we are not, we're not as productive as we would like to be. This is how we fill out these forms each day. So we know exactly what we saw. We have all this information in terms of where we are, what the name of the cave is, what the coordinates are that are related to the place where we're sampling. This is just general information about the animals. And this will be the more precise information about the animals. This describes the method in terms of how we collect. We have 4 principal zones in caves. We have an entrance zone, a twilight zone, a transition zone, which is the transition between complete darkness and twilight. And then we have the deep zone, the deepest part of the cave. So we have to indicate that as well here. We identify the species that we are collecting. And then what we will also do is, if we don't know what species we have in hand, we will add a description here. Small, completely gray Columbella, and whatever other characters we can add to this in this very small amount of space allotted here. And then we provide the number of specimens that we collect. And just to demonstrate how we do this, first, we turn on our light so we can see what we are doing. And then we go through this process of pulling back the detritus that is on the ground here. And of course, because we are being filmed, we're not going to see anything. This is an ant. You can see here scurrying across the... Oh, there's a few. We have a little ant line going here. These are most likely, these are the Argentinian ant. This is an invasive species. At one point, there were multiple species of ants that occurred on the island, all of which were introduced. There are no ants native to Polynesia. But when these arrived, they're voracious, and they outcompeted and killed off the other ant species. So now we believe there are very few, if any, ant species other than the Argentinian ant. Okay, there's more ants here. And this is just the process. And it is a very slow process. You have to be very patient. Oh, let's go lengthwise with this, please. You have to be very patient, and you pull back the sediment, you look. Sometimes you're looking for very small movements on the ground surface. Oh, here we go. Here's a spider. Or it might be, oh no, I can't see exactly what this, oh yeah, it is a spider. It's a very small spider. And this is how you do it. You just grab the animal. Do I have it? Did he get away? And that's also part of the job, is you think you might have it, but you don't have it. There he is. He's still there. And you try again. And sometimes you get more than you bargain for in terms of getting a few other things, but you then collect it. You can see it falling to the bottom of the vial. I think that's him. Is that him? Just swig. I think that might be dirt. We might not have collected it. But you can see that is the process. Sometimes oh, here we go. Here's a Columbella. Can you get that? This is going to be one of the endemic species here. It's very small. And the thing about Columbella is, if we do manage to remove this, he's underneath it now.
I have one here.
Oh, do you? Oh, you... Sebastian actually has one on his hand. Can you see it? It's going up his sleeve. These are...
really small.
Yes, they're very small animals. And this has happened to us a few times here. So what we'll do now is, like I said, these are all but one of the Columbella species known to occur on Rapa Nui are endemic. So that's the Columbella. They're very tiny. And then you put it in here, you shake the brush a few times, you double check the brush to make sure that it's in there. And then you see if you can see it falling to the bottom, just to ensure that you indeed did collect it. Oh no, see, this is why you have to be very careful. It did not come off the brush. Do it again. Did it come off this time? But this is the process. It is a very slow process. We often spend an hour per site when we're collecting. And because there is two of us, that gives us 2 person hours. So we have So Sebastian and I are collecting. So we have 2 people collecting for 1 hour. That means we have 2 hours of search time. And also part of science is trying to keep what we're doing consistent, or at least documenting the amount of time we spend. So when we're collecting, we indicate how much time we spend at each site. All right.
All right. Very cool, Jut.
Baru.
Jut, before we let you go to continue your work today, I want to share a quick picture. Let me just share my screen really quick here, because we saw Sebastian just starting a photo, but I have a couple pictures here of one of his more complete ones here. Looks like of one of the roly-polies. Oh, I think Jut might have accidentally hit the wrong button and exited himself from the call. So hopefully we see him in just a second, but there's a couple pictures here of Sebastian's work. So we saw he was just starting a picture in the cave, but here are a few pictures of some of his more completed artwork of one of those endemic species that they're finding in the cave. So endemic, found nowhere else in the world except on Rapa Nui in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, sometimes in just one cave spot. Let me see.
Yes.
We lost you, Jut.
Yeah. You know, technology is great when it works, right?
Uh-huh. I was just showing this picture of Sebastian, one of the more complete ones that he drew.
Yes. That's it. Oh yeah. That is one of the endemics.
Yeah. And then I wanted to share this picture too, because I think in the caves, I think this is absolute. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Well, there's the completed picture. That's pretty cool. But then I wanted to share, I love this little series of pictures here. These trees growing in the caves. I think that's so cool.
Back up one.
Yeah.
Go back one. That is right there. Go back one right there. See where I am there?
Yep.
If you move about 5 feet towards us into the foreground, that's where I fell.
Okay. So that's where you had the slip. All right.
That was a lot of
those cave systems are beautiful.
At home.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, Jut, I am going to come back from that screen share. I know you guys have a busy day ahead of you. Thank you so much for taking some time today, taking us to one of the most remote places on the planet and down into your office. Really, your offices this week, out in the field, out in the caves, and over 200 specimens. That's pretty productive. You guys have been busy.
Yes, we have. Sebastian, would you like to say anything before we sign off?
No, we need more study like this. We need more because we don't have too many animal here, but we have a Jut. So we need more study like this.
We need more. Yeah. We need more animals like me that can collect.
Absolutely.
This one here is not very good at collecting. Let's see.
No, not working very hard today.
No, he's not.
All right. Well, Sebastian, Jut, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It was really great to get that peek into the field, and we'll probably catch you on the ship next week as you sail towards Pitcairn and Mangareva.
Excellent. Look forward to it. Joe, thank you so much, everyone, and thank y'all for having us. Keep exploring.
Thanks, guys. Have fun out there. All right. Very cool. It's always great when we get to get live into the field. A few weeks ago, we were live running around the Galapagos. The last couple of weeks, we've been on Rapa Nui. It really is amazing the way technology can bring the field right to classrooms all over the world. Now, I made a little Kahoot quiz while they were presenting, and I think it is time that we play that Kahoot quiz together. So I just need a moment here to open it on my end. I have to take out those pictures that I was just sharing, those great photos of Sebastian, and I'm going to replace it with our quiz. All right. There we go. This should turn on to our screen now. So remember, if you are joining us in the classroom and you have devices at your seat, like a Chromebook, or a smart book or something like that, you can join us that way. Oh, share. Let's try that one more time. That is our pin number for today. If you have something at your seat, you can join directly. If not, your teacher could pop this up at the front of the classroom. You could shout out your answers to him or her. If you're at home, you can scan that QR code with your phone or a tablet. If you can't get on with technology, absolutely no big deal. You can still play along and see how you do. You don't necessarily have to be connected with a piece of technology. I'm going to give a minute for classrooms and students to join. 4 questions today, some true and false, some multiple choice. The quicker you put in the right answer, the more points you're going to get. Remember, there is a prize to the classroom with the winning student. It's a £50 Amazon gift card. So you'll have to email me after today's event. What else? After this, we'll take a look at our experiment from 2 weeks ago and see a brand new one. Then we'll wrap up with our curiosity of the week. So yeah, we went a little long hanging out with Jut and Sebastian and their 4-legged assistants in the cave. But how often do you get to connect from a cave on Rapa Nui? So I'm really glad we were able to do that thanks to our Starlink connection today. Okay, I think things have slowed down a little bit. So I think we better get this going because we still have to do our experiments and sign off after our curiosity of the week. So here we go. 3 seconds counting in, and then we will be playing a little Kahoot. So true or false? An endemic species is found all over the world. So we talked about this a lot today. Is it true or false that an endemic species is found all over the world? True or false? You've still got about 10 seconds to get your answers locked in. True or false, an endemic species is found all over the world. All right, that is absolutely false. Endemic species are found in one spot. Maybe it's an island. Sometimes it's as small as a cave or even a collection of trees. Sometimes even smaller. Just one spot in the world where you find this species. Pandemic is if they're found all over the world. That puts the smooth elephant in first place. We've got another question coming your way. It's multiple choice. In the caves where Jut is, there are how many endemic invertebrates? Have they found 2, 4, 6, or 8? So on Rapa Nui, endemic, so found nowhere else in the world except on Rapa Nui, were there 2, 4, 6, or 8 invertebrates on the island that they found? 2, 4, 6, or 8. All right, a little bit of a mixture. In the exact cave they were in were 6, but on the island as a whole, there are 8 species of endemic invertebrates. That puts the social pony in first place. We've got another true or false coming your way. The caves are home to biodiversity as well as cultural spaces. So remember at the very beginning when Jut was showing us around the cave a little bit, true or false, it's home to biodiversity as well as cultural spaces or cultural artifacts, we could say as well. Is that true or is that false? All right, absolutely true. We saw some of those walls in the cave that were built by the original inhabitants of that island of Rapa Nui. All right, one more question. Social Pony still in first place. An indicator species can tell you how many are in the environment, how the weather changes in the environment, or the health of an environment. So an indicator species can tell us how many species in the environment, how the weather changes in the environment, or the health of an environment. Which one of those can an indicator species tell you? All right, absolutely, folks. It is the health of the environment. That puts the fuzzy alpaca in third place. We've got the smooth elephant in second. And holding down that top spot, we've got the social pony held on for the last few questions. All right, I'm going to come back from that screen share. I'm going to turn off that Kahoot music, and I'm going to put an email up here. If you are the classroom that contains the social pony, I need you to send me a message to classroom@darwin200.com, classroom@darwin200.com, and then we will make sure we get that gift card to your teacher. So classroom@darwin200.com if you are the social pony in that classroom. All right. 2 weeks ago, we had an experiment. Let's talk about the results of that experiment from 2 weeks ago. I just have to make sure that I pick the right file here. Experiment. There we go. This sheet of paper. Turn the sound off because I got a little bit over this experiment. So 2 weeks ago, we had a pretty simple experiment. Definitely one with a little supervision, maybe of an adult, or if you did it at home, maybe a parent or a guardian. So I drew a spiral on a piece of paper. I then cut that piece of paper out, and then I put it on, I'll fast forward a little bit, we'll watch it a little quicker. So I cut it out. I used a piece of plasticine on the table, or Play-Doh, whatever you had handy would work. After I cut that spiral out with a bamboo skewer, and then carefully balance that paper on top. From there, I took a little tea light and I put it underneath that paper. And then you could use something like a barbecue lighter and light that tea light. All right. What happened? After a few seconds, our spiral paper started to turn. So I hope some of you were able to give this a try at home. Maybe your teacher tried it in the classroom so you guys could see it happening. And what's happening here? Well, a few things. We know that hot air rises. So that's the very first thing. Hot air rises. It creates these currents of upward moving warm air. And I'm just showing here that you could have put it on a string and done the same thing. So if you didn't have a bamboo skewer, you could have done the experiment using a piece of string. So that hot air rises. It creates these currents that rise upwards, the warm air. The spiral is a nice shape to catch those currents. The paper is nice and light, and so we get that spinning of our spiral. If you want to see this in action in real life, you just have to look outside, especially on a nice warm day, and look at things like turkey vultures and hawks. Turkey vultures especially, they look for those upward rising convection currents, those heat currents where the hot air is rising, and they use them to gain altitude. So you'll see a vulture spinning, spinning, spinning. They're using that rising warm air to get higher and higher and higher. And then they'll glide until they find the next area of upward rising air. So animals can take advantage of that. And we can do that right at our desk, right in our home with this spiral paper experiment. So we have a brand new experiment called Growing Geodes. So Stuart McPherson was in the Darwin lab, the Darwin studio in the UK, and he sent us this dispatch. Let's take a look.
Geodes are holes within the underground rock in which beautiful crystals form. Geodes form because minerals dissolved within the groundwater percolate into the cavity and slowly accumulate on the inside of that hole, forming those crystals, often over millions of years. Amethyst crystals often grow within geodes, as you can see with this example here. All of these beautiful crystals have grown inwards into this hole in this rock that once was deep underground. As the crystals grow, they grow into one another and form this dense coating, and this develops as a nodule that can be dug up. I've got a couple of geode nodules here, and if I hit them with a hammer, we should be able to see what's inside. So let's have a quick go. Wow, look at all these beautiful crystals in front of this geode. Who would have thought all of these beautiful white crystals were inside what looked like an ordinary rock? It's pretty amazing to think what could be hidden underground. You can grow your very own geodes in your classroom or at home. It's a slightly different process to how they form, but nevertheless it shows how these beautiful crystals can develop. To grow your own geode, all you need is a bag of alum. This is available in supermarkets as well as online. You need some eggshells. You have to be really careful in creating these. What you need to do is boil an egg or two, and with the supervision of a responsible adult, very carefully cut the egg in half lengthways. I used a bread knife with a slight sawing action to slowly cut into the egg. You need to end up with these longitudinal half sections, such as this. Then get a large beaker or jam jar, and ideally, if possible, use distilled water. You can use mineral water or tap water, but distilled water will generally work much better. Then you need some food colouring, some glue, a tiny little pebble, if you can find one, and a spoon. First, get one of your eggshells and very carefully then apply some glue to the inside of the eggshell. I'm just using regular craft glue. I've got a piece of cardboard here to help apply it. You can use a brush as well. Try and get a nice coating of glue all the way through your eggshell. This is very important. You'll see why in a second. Then get your little pebble and apply a little bit of glue to your pebble. This is really important because you're going to need your eggshell to sink. So put the pebble on the inside, and then if you can, very carefully cover the top of your pebble with a bit more glue. So the whole inside of your eggshell is nice and sticky. Then the next bit is quite fun. You can get some of your alum and you have to sprinkle this very carefully all the way through the inside of your eggshell. You've got to get a completely even coating of alum all the way through. I'm just jiggling it around a little bit and hopefully, yep, there should be a nice coating of alum all the way through that eggshell. This is really important because all of these little particles of alum will form the focus of the crystals that you're going to grow. Next, you need to get some warm or hot water and dissolve as much alum as you possibly can to make a saturated solution. A saturated solution means that no more alum will dissolve. I'll just keep mixing this until no more will dissolve inside the solution. I think you can probably take a little bit more. Let's try a couple more spoonfuls. And I think our solution then should be saturated. There we go. I think that's about as much as we're going to be able to dissolve in that amount of water. The next bit is optional. You don't have to apply a food colouring, but I'd recommend doing so because it'll make your crystals even more beautiful. I'm going to use purple food colouring, so my geode looks a little bit like this amethyst that we saw earlier. So let's put in a few drops. There we go. We'll give that a mix and make that nice and purple. When the glue on your eggshell is completely dry, which generally takes about 24 hours, you're then ready to put your eggshell into the solution of alum. Then wait a few days and see what happens. You should start to have crystals develop on the inside of your eggshell. Join me in 2 weeks' time to see the results of my experiment here, and send in photos of your geodes as they grow in your classroom or at home. Email them to classroom@darwin200.com. Good luck, and thank you for taking part in growing your very own geode.
All right. So there we go. You have 2 weeks to try that in the classroom, try it at home, and then we want you to send some pictures into classroom@darwin200.com. We'll have some gift cards for some classrooms who do send in those photos of growing their own geode. So you have 2 weeks to get that started. Stu right now is back in the UK and we'll be filming over the next few days new experiments, new answers to experiments, new curiosities of the week. And so we'll have a whole bunch more coming your way as we continue along with the world's most exciting classroom. Our curiosity of the week. 1 week ago, we saw those amazing moai, those statues. 9-10 meters tall, weighing upwards, some of them 80 tons. How did they move them from quarries on the island all the way to the other side of the islands? Well, we had some great guesses come in from our students, and Stu sent us an answer here from the field. So let's take a look at that answer together.
Welcome back everyone to Rapa Nui. Last week I asked you, how do you think the people here on Rapa Nui move these spectacular moai, these amazing statues? Well, I have my friend here, Cesar, who will help explain. Cesar, ¿cuáles son las ideas cómo se pueden mover los moai?
Bueno, de partida nos damos cuenta que el moai es una figura, cierto, que representa a un humano.
Yep.
Y vemos las dimensiones tremendas que tiene este moai. Por lo tanto, el transporte es muy difícil de asegurar cómo fue. Hay muchas teorías.
So there's many theories to move these enormous statues.
Entonces, una de las teorías, la más convincente para nosotros, es que el moai camina. El moai está en cierta posición, obviamente nunca necesitó piernas, pero sí esta parte. Okay,
so our friend is saying one of the most convincing ideas, of the many ideas, is that the moai would walk. How would the moai walk? Come on.
Bueno, el moai se bajaba de la parte alta, ¿cierto? Se deslizaba por decantación, caía en un orificio previo, se erguía el moai, quedaba de pie, ¿cierto? Y luego con cuerdas lo tiraban, lo amarraban desde aquí en las partes firmes y tiraban, y el moai caminaba, hacía como esta sensación así.
So, the people would excavate the moai up there in the quarry areas. They would then slide them down the hill.
Exactly.
The curvature of the hill would make them stand up, and then our friend was saying they'd put ropes around and then move them like walking. Okay. Then they'd slowly move them along across the island. Pero los otras ideas?
Bueno, hay otras teorías también.
There's other theories.
Que es cierto, madera puesta en esta posición.
So a wooden frame.
Luego con cuerdas ponían el moai acá abajo y ponían y empezaban, levantaban y el moai avanzaba.
Okay, so they'd make a wooden frame that would kind of move, and the moai would slip underneath them, like that. Okay.
Así, y levantaba y avanzaba el moai. Levantaba y avanzaba el moai. Esa es una de las teorías. La otra dicen que puede ser a través de estos troncos que puedan ser rodando, ¿verdad? Como rolls, ¿verdad?
Another idea is that have big wooden logs that would roll. So they'd take one from the back of the moai, put it to the front, push it forward, and then do it again, and keep moving them.
Pero es descartable porque no hay mucha vegetación en la isla, no hay mucho árbol firme.
But there's not many big trees on the island, so there's not a good source of the big roller trees.
Claro. Y la otra teoría que nosotros también tenemos, que era a través del poder del mana, un poder mental intangible.
So another very important belief here, and a traditional belief, is that the people would use a mental power called mana.
Entonces ellos, muchos familiares míos, yo le preguntaba, pero ¿cómo sucedía?
Many people ask him how.
Dice que realmente ellos no lo veían, pero sí la persona que tenía el poder del mana le decía al moai, tú mañana vas a estar en cierto lugar.
Okay, so one night they would say, this moai would have to go to another place.
Exacto, entonces le decía, mañana tú tienes que estar en tal lugar. Y la gente cuando iba a ver, se encontraba con el moai en el sector ya
So they would levitate, they would move.
Posiblemente.
Okay, so this magic, the theory of mana, involves them moving magically from one part of the island to another part.
Entonces mentalmente pensabas y el moai podía levitar.
And
esa era
with
otra
the mental
teoría.
power, they could then move the moai up into the air and levitate them to the other side of the island.
Exacto.
Well, no matter which of these ideas is correct, it's amazing because some of these moai have moved 12 kilometers to other parts of the island. So regardless of how these spectacular moai moved, whether it's by rollers, by frame, or by walking, or by mana, it's a miracle that these huge structures that can weigh 80 tons or more, the biggest of them, were able to move at all. So let's go back to Joe.
All right, let me take that video out. So that is, well, really the answer to last week's curiosity is we don't know for 100%. There's theories like walking the statues, using rollers, wooden frames, even mana, so using the power of their mind. So we don't know for 100%. We had some great guesses come in online. Mr. Hancock's class thought they were using pulleys and cylinders to roll them along. Miss Robinson's class in Toronto thought maybe simple machines, levers, and ropes Maybe they made a wheel from rocks and planks. And then let's see, who am I missing here? Evan T sent in wooden roller. So all great theories and all ideas for how this might have happened. But the truth is some things are still a mystery to us, and we don't know for 100%. Our curiosity for this week is an interesting one. I decided to use a piece of technology for our curiosity. Now, I love to go out into the field and I love to take pictures. So I'm going to give you a big clue that these curiosities are in my camera bag and they help me take a certain kind of photo at a certain time of the day. So that's a pretty big clue that I'm going to give you. And you need 2 of them for it to work. So here they are, these 2 devices. You can see how it would attach to the top of the camera here. They call it a shoe here. And then they're synced to each other, these 2 devices. And they help me do something at a certain time of the day to take a certain type of photo with my camera. In fact, I'll even give you a tiny little clue that it's not during the bright sunny part of the day that these things come in handy, these 2 pairs of tools. So our curiosity for this week is a piece of technology, I guess 2 pieces of technology that work together to help photographers take pictures in certain conditions late in the day. So that is our curiosity for the week. Can you figure out what these do for taking photos? And then I'll show you a little bit more of the pieces and how they fit together next week in the world's most exciting classroom. So you have 2 weeks for the experiment to send in pictures to classroom@darwin200.com. 1 week for our curiosity, these 2 pieces of technology that help me take pictures late in the day. All right. So last thing to do today is a big shout out to our classrooms. Thank you so much for being with us, sending in those great questions. It was so awesome for our last event before we leave Rapa Nui this week to go into the field, see some science, see some field work in action, get into those caves on one of the most remote islands on the planet. We always end off by thanking our sponsors. Our sponsors today our sponsors and our supporters. Without them, we couldn't sail around the world. We couldn't train young conservationists, do the research we're doing, and we definitely wouldn't be having the world's most exciting classroom. So that's how we will sign off for today. A quick little video to say thank you to our sponsors. We will see everybody next week. But for now, we're going to sign off with our video.